Hi friends, welcome back. I'm going to jump right in here. I am still in Joshua Tree. I'm about to head out, but I was inspired to do another video, and I just took a shower, and it feels amazing. Nothing like several days in the desert to get funky. So here I am, refreshed, and I wanted to talk about magnetism. I've mentioned it in a couple videos, and it's a very important concept and a very, very useful concept in our day-to-day lives and whatever endeavors we might have. And one thing to think about is, I talked about how creation works on different levels, and it reflects itself on each level. Everything that we see in the physical realm is like a grosser reflection of spiritual truths. It's one of the reasons that we can find so many spiritual truths around us, so much symbolism. It's just in anything, if you look deep enough, there's always symbolism and lessons to be garnered. And the same is true for magnetism. I think there's a bird. There was a jackrabbit earlier over there. So we are familiar with magnetism and like our refrigerator magnets or a simple bar magnet. And basically how a bar magnet works is there are all the atoms of iron. They each have a polarity, a north and a south pole, a positive and a negative pole. And they're oriented in every which way, so they all cancel each other out, so a piece of iron doesn't really have a magnetic pull in any direction. And to create a magnet, if they all are oriented the same way, all the positive ends are pointed one way, the negative ends are pointed the other way, then the bar of iron is magnetized. It is a magnet, and one of the things I think is really cool is that it maintains its own magnetism once it's set that way, and then it creates this magnetic field. It has this expanded strength and aura around it, and anything that is not more powerful than the magnet, if it gets in that field, it will be affected by that field. Oh, it's beautiful little birds over there. I'm not sure what they are. And similarly, we can cultivate on subtle levels magnetism. So on a more subtle level, we can cultivate magnetism in our lives in whatever area we would like. And one of the places that I see this is in athletes. Sometimes you'll see a photo of an athlete right at a critical moment in something that they're doing, and you just see the years of training and the dedication and the willpower, the concentration, the focus, all of their energy is directed toward one goal, and you just know they will be successful in that endeavor. They're about to make an amazing catch or land an amazing flip off of something or whatever it is. But you can see the focus and the intention in their eyes. It comes through. It's palpable. We can really sense it, feel it, acknowledge it, and that's what leads to their success. And yes, through the years they've trained and they've worked on this thing, whatever it is, but really what they're cultivating on a more subtle level is the magnetism of being a good athlete, or being a good artist, or whatever it is. And let's say if we want to be a successful business person, we can go to school and learn all the tricks of the trade and all the things you should do and not do. And we get out of school, and depending on how well we absorb those lessons into our being and how much magnetism we've created, we can be successful. But also lots of people go to business school and don't really become very successful business people. Another powerful thing we could do is find a very successful business person and apprentice ourselves to them and learn from them, be with them. And in that process, what we're doing is making some really interesting noises over there, is we are allowing their magnetism to influence us. So our magnetism reflects them. We get in their magnetic field. And this is the process of attunement, and which is another episode. But we're learning success magnetism from them is really what it comes down to. And if we have enough magnetism, we'll make the right choices, we'll find the right people, the right things will just naturally fall into place around us because we've created that magnetism, that magnetic aura that will then affect others. And one of the ways, one really interesting example from my life, not that long ago, I was dating somebody who's very flexible, and I'm not as flexible right now. But I noticed while I was dating, during the time of dating her, I became more flexible, and I wasn't doing that much more. I was stretching a little bit more, but I became much more flexible just by being around her, being in her aura and being open to her energy, and she had tremendous flexibility, magnetism. And I just inevitably took that on, and it was quite nice. Another example that I think of with magnetism is this story that I read years ago. I don't remember where it was exactly, but it was about martial artists in the East, centuries ago in ancient times. What they would do when two of them met, they wanted to determine who is the better martial artist. And they would simply sit and stare into each other's eyes. And before long, inevitably one of them would concede, you are the better martial artist. And they would do that by, my interpretation is, they are assessing each other's magnetism, and they can just tell that they're feeling the other person has more magnetism. And you'll notice that they didn't talk about, well, how long did you go to school? Who did you train with? How many hours a day did you train? How many other people have you successfully beaten or overcome? None of that matters. It's all about, in that present moment, who has more magnetism. And I relate to that one. I remember when I was in elementary school, sometimes we would play chicken on this balance beam. It was just like a foot off the ground. It was just like a beam, like a 4-inch beam or so. And the teachers usually shut it down, I think, because it was too much like fighting, and they weren't quite sure what to do with it. But it was actually a really fun game and a fun practice when sometimes it would start to happen, and people would come over and start lining up and test each other out. And I remember I could usually tell whenever I was meeting somebody, I could tell who was going to win, and the object was just to push the other person off the beam and have their feet hit the ground first. And I remember one guy in particular that I only did this with him one time, but I remember looking in his eyes, and my impression of him was that he was tough and athletic. And I was pretty scrappy. But we were about the same size. He might have been a little smaller than me, actually. But I remember the determination in his eyes. And I remember myself just feeling like, ooh, he knows he's going to win. And I think he's probably right. And then, lo and behold, he was right. He did win. And I just remember that so clearly. And I was reminded of that also some years later. I went to a zoo and was looking at the lions and just admiring their size and their power. And one of them looked at me and locked eyes with me for a few seconds. And it's like I just felt myself wilt inside. There was so much incredible, powerful magnetism to overcome, to hunt, to kill, to protect. It was like I didn't stand a chance, and it was like if that lion attacked me, I wouldn't even put up a fight just because the power of its magnetism was just so overwhelming. It was amazing to behold, a really powerful experience, and it would be great to, I'd love to experience that again and try to hold my own, against the lion, boost my magnetism to meet the lion's magnetism, or to attune to the magnetism that the lion had. I think would be a fascinating process. We can attune ourselves to someone who's successful in an area we want to be in. We can also just attune our magnetism, generate the magnetism within us to something that we're aspiring towards. And I'll do my best to describe what that process is like for me. And before I go there, I just want to say again that this path, this journey of awakening, of maturing, is your own journey. Everybody has a unique take on it, and some of you might resonate with the experience that I'll share, and some of you will say that doesn't sound right for me. It sounds crazy. My experience is nothing like that. That's great. That's fine. Don't worry about it. There's nothing wrong with your experience. But just for those of you for whom it is helpful, I will share kind of what it feels like in my experience. So when I want to directly affect my magnetism, to affect a change in me, what I do when I tune into myself meditatively, my sense is I draw my awareness within, and there's this sense of this great opening, this kind of almost a void with some vibration within it. And that's not a void like to say that I'm empty, but I think that I'm touching into the astral body in which there's no time or space, so it can be infinitely large, infinitely small at the same time. This is getting kind of out there, but that's why I think that I feel this great immense space. It's like the space of all possibility that is latent within me. And in that space, distributed and more towards the periphery, there just is vibration. And it's not, I don't feel it as a particular sound or color or taste or anything like that. Some people might, but it's just a vibration. I don't know how else to describe it. And there are kind of different qualities of vibrations, and I don't list them or think about them. It's like, oh, well, I have, this much and this type of courage and this type of hope and this joy and this, whatever it is. I don't label them all. I go inward and I'm aware of these qualities of vibration, and that there is one sum total vibration that they all create together. And that is me. And then I think of the magnetic quality that I'm aspiring to, whether it's to be very creative or to be more outgoing, to be more joyful. And I feel for the subtle vibration of that quality. And then I feel that vibration within me, within the space and amongst all the other vibrations. And I feel it expanding until all the vibrations, me, are resonating, are vibrating with that vibration, with that quality. And there is inevitably, I feel a physical change happening in me too, whatever it is. If it's more joyful, I feel my energy kind of buoys up and my heart opens a little bit, my chest expands. Like even if I'm just meditating and I'm still, there's a very subtle movement, but there is an inevitable, a tangible change that takes place. And I hold on to that quality. And sometimes if it's a quality, I might hold on to it while I'm performing an action. If it's creative, I might attune to being creative while I draw something or paint something. I remember when I was first experimenting with these things, I worked at a restaurant, and sometimes I would walk up to a table and everybody at the table would completely ignore me. And I would stand there for like this awkwardly long moment, and everybody's completely ignoring me. And I didn't want to interrupt. People were talking, and I didn't want to interrupt them. And I wasn't quite sure what to do. And then a few times I'd go away, and I would generate the magnetism within me of being in control, being a leader, maybe like being someone that is going to tell other people, like, this is what's happening. I would go through that process very quickly, attune to that magnetism of power, and then I would walk back to the table, and every time that I did that, everyone at the table would stop talking and turn and look up at me. It was so fascinating. It worked like so clearly. Oh, I think there's a nest over there. Oh, I think that's a gnat catcher. The magnetism of being a bird nerd. So magnetism is one of the most useful concepts for us to work with, to refine our understanding of, and it can be, again, as something as simple as succeeding at work, finding a job, but one of the most useful ways we can practice magnetism is cultivating our spiritual magnetism. And it can be even our vibration, sometimes even our meditation. Sometimes I'll do this when I sit and I'm quiet. I just try to attune myself to the consciousness of infinity, or the consciousness of enlightenment, or the consciousness of a saint. This is kind of like the highest expression of acting, because acting is attuning our consciousness, creating the magnetism of a character. And I've heard stories of actors who have so completely attuned themselves to their character that they go through a lie detector test and they pass it as the character, even though they're saying they've done things that they haven't in real life, but the character has done them. So the highest expression of that is attuning ourselves, generating the magnetism of being a saint ourselves, being fully awake spiritually, being a complete, pure, and open channel for all the goodness, the innate joy of the universe to flow through us in every single thing that we do, in every moment of our lives, and that we make all our decisions from that point. So that is a little bit about magnetism, and I hope that is informative and helpful in your life and your experience and growth. And don't hesitate to let me know if you have any questions or thoughts. And I am going to get back on the road and keep heading south and exploring this beautiful desert that I'm in. And just real quick, here's what I'm looking at while I've been doing this video. So anyway, all the best, take care, see you soon. Also, black-tailed gnatcatcher, FYI. Total bird nerd.